Meanwhile, packaging company Astrapak has appointed a new CEO who resumed his duties on Monday. Robin Moore has extensive experience, having worked for another packaging firm, Nampak, and he's joining us now to discuss his new role at Astrapak. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
So there we go. I mean, you've spent the majority of your career in the packaging industry, so of course fit for the job. You worked at Nampak since 1985, and Astrapak has been going through a tough time. Talk to us about your view on being a part of a company that's part of a restructuring phase right now.
Look, I'm really excited about the opportunity. Clearly, I've spent a lot of time in the Nampak business, 27 years, so I've got experience in rigids and flexibles. I think Astra is at an exciting point for me. I've only spent a couple of days there, but certainly the people I've seen excite me. The opportunities, I think, are extensive. There's no question there are businesses that are in a turnaround phase, and there are some businesses that are well positioned. And I think the exciting thing for me is in all the businesses that I've looked at so far, even the ones that require turnaround, it's not a case of looking at them and saying, we don't know what to do. I think there clearly are opportunities and things that we can do to reorganize and rationalize. And I think in the well-positioned businesses, there are also exciting opportunities, which is a little unusual for packaging companies.
Before we get into those, just talk to us about the experience that you have in the flexible plastic packaging industry, because that's, of course, an area of Astrapak's that has been underperforming, and perhaps the reason why they specifically feel that you are the right person to help turn around that part of the business. Have you identified areas that Astrapak has gone wrong in those spaces?
I think it's a little early to say whether they've gone wrong. I think I've got some ideas of what we could do, but I think it's important to really understand the asset base and the people within the business before we start making decisions. I think there's no question on the flexible side, though, that there is a need for a more coordinated effort. We've got a number of factories around the country, and I think the legacy of Astrapak is that it's an accumulation of businesses that have been put together through acquisition. And I think one of the challenges on the flexible side particularly is to pull them together and operate more on a national basis.
You talk about those areas, of course, that Astrapak perhaps has a competitive advantage, a niche area which it is already positioned in positively and could leverage off that positioning. Tell us about those.
Yeah, I think we have strong positions with a number of customers already, so a number of the major multinationals. I think in the first phase, there's no question that the guys have highlighted already that there's a rationalization process going on, and there's a need to better utilize the asset base. And we'll do that with those major customers. And once we get that into the right place, we should be able to leverage that into other products and markets that we're in, and potentially, I think, longer term into the Africa situation as well.
Okay, so then let's talk about the Africa situation. Yeah. I mean, at this point in time, what type of earnings does Astrapak generate outside of South Africa?
Very little outside of South Africa. We really don't have any asset base outside of South Africa at all. I think the first phase of what we need to do, though, is really to clean up the South African operations, get our platform secure, and once we've got that sorted out, we can start looking at Africa. But there's no question that the request from customers is that we have a platform out there, and it's certainly going to be one of our strategic objectives going forward.
Now, during your time at the other packaging company, you spent some time in the UK, and in fact, one of the interesting facts is that you were part of the development of the plastic milk bottles, industry in the UK, and of course, leading in that space. How are you going to use your international experience to help grow Astrapak's business?
I think there are a couple of ways. Certainly, I've got an extensive base of experience in the blow molding industry as a result of that. I think there are a number of lessons in the way you run the business in terms of supply chain and in terms of innovation. We did a lot of innovative things in the UK, and I think that business...
Tell us about those.
Well, I think if you look in the South African context, I was involved in the milk business in my early career, heavily involved in the launch of the 2-litre milk bottle, which is now the standard in South Africa. So we did a lot of work in that area. We started with the initial implants in South Africa, where we put facilities on customer premises and actually blow the bottles on site. We did the first big one here at Queensborough Dairy many years ago for Clover. And we really took that footprint to the UK because the milk industry was moving from home deliveries to supermarket procurement. And we got involved. We set up a number of these big implants. And really a lot of that is around the supply chain management that you need and the quick response. And if you look at the innovation we did in the UK, all the new bottle designs that are are used in the UK now pretty much came out of the Nampak stable during my time. We also converted the market from milk cartons in the smaller sizes to plastic, so we helped lead that charge. And I think even now the spirit of innovation has lived on, and they've come up with some new bottles that involve using recycled material. So I think there are lessons of how to run the business, how to use blow molding that are applicable to our blow molding businesses. And a lot of the principles that have applied and been successful there have worked for me in the flexible business that I've run in South Africa.
And of course, as you say,
and can transfer.
And as you say, being responsive to changing market demands, supply chain management there. You've talked about some of the innovations that you've seen offshore and that could apply locally. But generally in South Africa, I mean, what is the state of the packaging industry right now? Is it mainly a focus on cost pressures that is really affecting margins?
I think there's no question cost pressures are affecting margins. I think we're seeing the backlash of the downturn internationally. We've got a number of the multinationals in South Africa who are putting pressure on price and therefore margins for the packaging industry, and that means we've got to get a lot fitter. And certainly in Astrapak that process has started. And I think that's the general trend that we're going to see, is that we've got to compete more with international players coming to South Africa, and the comparisons to benchmarks that the international customers are actually testing us against.
From a shareholder's perspective, very quickly, I mean, just looking at the last results, in a loss-making position, Astrapak, what is the timeline that you can give shareholders hope that they might start seeing a profit for the company?
Look, I think the business is profitable. I think the issue is, can we get back to the levels that we have been historically? And I think there is work being done on that already. I think realistically, from my perspective, the next results come out in February, and we've got a Christmas break still to come. So for me to personally make a big impact between now and February is probably unrealistic. But I think that there are a number of projects already underway. I think the team has done well so far that will deliver some benefit in the next set of results. And really the focus for me is going to be the following year.